Morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 College Admissions 101 webinar, where we'll be focusing on in-state college attendance. Thank you all for deciding to spend some time with us. I am Sandra Jackson, Partnerships Manager for Alabama Possible. So the college admissions process can be a daunting and sometimes challenging task for families. To help you sort through some of those challenges, we have asked college admissions officers and a financial aid officer from an in-state institution to share what they look for when reviewing applications to attend their school. Panelists will provide information on how counselors and career coaches can support and advise high school seniors as they navigate this process. As always, we would like to thank our sponsors, without whom a lot of this work would not be possible. We also would like to thank our partners who are an integral part of this work. So just a few housekeeping details. Please keep your microphones on mute at all times to avoid feedback during the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and posted to youtube.com Alabama Possible, which is our YouTube channel. Submit questions throughout the webinar using the chat feature. So if you have a question that comes up and you want to go ahead and submit it, you can do that using the chat feature, and we'll address those at the end of the webinar. We also ask that you complete our poll questions in order to receive professional development credit. So we're on social media, and we ask that you help us to continue to build a college-going culture by following us liking us on Facebook and following us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So our 2022-23 Alabama Goes to College campaign is in full swing. We have over 370 schools registered for the campaign for this year. Any school that missed the October 1st deadline, unfortunately, won't be eligible for the monetary grant award for this year's campaign, but you can still register to receive access to the tools and resources that we have available to assist you. So this campaign consists of three components. The first is our Cash for College, which focuses on FAFSA completion. And we encourage graduating seniors to complete the FAFSA to access federal, state, and/or institutional aid. Last year, it became part of the graduation requirement checklist. So the students will have to complete the FAFSA or complete an opt-out waiver. The second part is the Alabama College Application Week. And this is part of a national campaign focusing on the college admission process. Alabama College Application Week is designed to help students navigate the sometimes complex application and enrollment process. It also encourages at least one college application completion during the campaign. And some colleges waive the application fee during Alabama College Application Week. The third component is College and Career Decision Day. And this is the day when we celebrate those students, the students who have made the decision, whatever that decision is, to further their post-secondary pathways, whether it's going to a 2-year or 4-year college, whether they're joining the military, or whether they decide to enter the workforce. We want to celebrate the decisions that those students made to further their post-secondary careers. So October 1st opened the FAFSA completion season, and Governor Ivey proclaimed October as Financial Aid Awareness Month on September 30th by issuing this proclamation. I will turn it over to May Whiting, Manager of Data and Research, to launch our first poll.
Hi, everyone. Like Sandra mentioned, we will have polls throughout the webinar and towards the end. And I will launch our first one right now just to get an idea of what your students are considering as the most important factor when they're deciding where to apply. And just a reminder with our other poll questions, the poll questions towards the end of today's presentation are required for high school educators to receive professional development credit. So make sure you stay all the way to the end so that we can get that important feedback from you and then submit your name for PD credits. All right, so we have about half of folks who have answered this question. I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. And the theme that I'm seeing develop so far is that cost of attendance is definitely the most important factor to your students. That makes a lot of sense. And we'll definitely be discussing that today throughout our panel. But yes, cost of attendance blew away the rest of the field. All right, thank you so much for your participation.
You may. So why is post-secondary education important? And when we talk about post-secondary education, we're not just referring to college. It also includes any post-high school educational or career endeavor, like we mentioned before. So the Alabama Department of Labor and Labor Market Information Division compiled data on the projected percent change in job growth from 2018 to 2028. In 2018, only 33% of jobs were in occupations that typically require post-secondary education. Within this 33%, 56% required a bachelor's degree, which was the largest share. Occupations requiring a high school diploma or equivalent and less than high school made up 67% of the jobs in 2018. So based on this chart, the projected percentages of jobs requiring post-secondary education are increasing, and those requiring a post-secondary degree, not requiring a post-secondary degree, are decreasing. For instance, you can see based on this chart that the highest is the master's degree percentage increase, projected increase. And then we have the associate and doctorate and bachelor's degree. And by contrast, some college and no degree occupations, they have a projected growth rate of 0.6%, which is the lowest and the slowest over the projection period. So it's very important that the students get something post high school in order to be able to compete in the upcoming job market. So this is the 2020 median annual wages by education. And this report was also compiled by the Alabama Department of Labor and Labor Market Information Division. Jobs categorized into occupation requiring some form of post-secondary education for entry typically have higher wages, which is understandable. Occupations typically requiring an associate degree and above pay wages higher than the average median wage of all occupation, which that median wage is $34,798. In 2020, doctoral or professional degree jobs reported having the highest average wages, followed by a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, respectively. And you can see that in the chart. Occupations with no formal educational credential requirement reported the lowest, falling over $5,000 below the average wage of $34,798. As indicated, these numbers are from these are the 2018 to 2028 projections report. The new numbers will be available. They'll be coming out within the next few months for the 2020-2030 projections. The Alabama Department of Labor updates this information in 2-year increments. So that's why we'll have the new data coming up in the next few months. So recognizing the importance of post-secondary education, The second component of the Alabama Goes to College campaign, the Alabama College Application Week, is next week, October the 17th through the 21st, 2022. And this process is focusing on, as we mentioned earlier, completing college applications, working through the complex application process, and post-secondary pathway decisions. And these are some buttons and stickers that's available in our toolkit that I'll talk about a little later, that you all can download for your college application week activities. So to assist your college application week planning and other college going activities, the Alabama Goes to College Educator Toolkit is available at alabamapossible.org under the Programs tab. And as I mentioned, it will have the button stickers, also some information on ideas, the site coordinator handbook that was compiled by the State Department of Education to help you also. Additional resources are our Educator's Handbook and Student and Families Guidebook. Both of these are also available on the alabamapossible.org website under Programs and Alabama Goes to College tab. These resources can help with timelines, activities, and other informational items that you all can use in working with your students throughout the year. We also have the Alabama Goes to College Help Desk. Students, parents, counselors, and career coaches, or really anyone assisting with FAFSA completion who may have questions, can call our help desk at 334-316-6155. They can send us an email at algostocollege@alabamapossible.org, or they can send a text using that same phone number. So now we're going to get into our panel discussion. So at this time, if you have questions, please feel free to start posting them in our chat. We do have prepared questions for our panelists. And so at the end, we'll get to any questions that you post in the chat feature. So let's introduce our panelists, who will provide general information about admissions, their admissions and enrollment processes at their colleges and universities. And we also have a financial aid director to provide a general overview of the financial aid process and answer some of your financial aid questions. So we'll get started. And first up is Dr. Courtney Griffin from Tuskegee University.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the call. I am Courtney Griffin, Director of Admissions and Enrollment Management here at my lovely alma mater, Tuskegee University. We are located in historic Tuskegee, Alabama. We have about 3,000 students with academic programs in the undergraduate, graduate, and the online degree arena. We are high in our STEM programs, as we were recently ranked the #3 HBCU in the nation. Very proud of that, and remain #1 in the state of Alabama. The only HBCU to offer a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine program, leading producer of aerospace engineers in our field, and the oldest nursing program in the state of Alabama. So, and we also have an awesome architectural program, the Robert R. Taylor School of Architecture. A lot of history here at our university. Of course, Booker T. Washington was our very first president. George Washington Carver did all of his research with the peanut. He did not invent the peanut, so please don't ever say that out loud. But he did all of his research with the peanut here on our campus. And we have the lovely George Washington Carver Museum here on our campus as well. So if there are any questions as we go through the panel and the questions that have been slated, please feel free to ask them. And if you're ever in this vicinity, please come by and visit. We're a very historic 5,000-acre campus and would love to have you here on our campus.
Dr. Griffin. Next, we'll have Ms. Libba Baker from the University of West Alabama.
Morning. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Libba Baker, and I'm the Director of Admissions at the University of West Alabama. I work primarily with undergraduate on-campus students, but we do have a phenomenal graduate online program that we provide different degrees in education, business. We also have a nursing program and just added our BSN recently as well. Just like Dr. Griffin said, if you ever have any interest in UWA or you have any students that are interested in UWA, please encourage them to come and visit campus. We would love to have them join us.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Next, we'll have Mr. Michael Cozart from Spring Hill College.
Morning, Michael Cozart, and I serve as the director of our TRIO Student Support Services program here at Spring Hill. Spring Hill is the oldest Catholic college in the Southeast and the third oldest Jesuit college in the United States. TRIO programs are federally funded TRIO programs that provide outreach to student services designed to identify and provide services for individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds. TRIO programs are the premier college access and college success programs in the country. TRIO programs were the first national college access and retention programs to address the serious social and cultural barriers to education in America. So the first three programs are Upper Bound, Talent Search. And so you may have some students in your schools that are in Upper Bound or Talent Search. Then the third is Upper Student Support Services. And those three programs are kind of the umbrella for TRIO. TRIO is not an acronym, it's just those first three programs.
Thank you, Mr. Cozart. Next, we'll have Mr. Dorian Walliam, Lawson State Community College.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Dorian Walliam. I'm the Director of Admissions and Enrollment Management at Lawson State Community College. We are one college, two campuses. I'm in the Birmingham and Bessemer area. We have four major divisions at our college. College transfer, of course, career technical education, health professions, and then business and technologies. One of our top programs here, of course, is our nursing program. We have an LPN and an RN program. We've recently started a radiologic technology program here on campus. We're one of the only community colleges in the Alabama Community College system with on-campus living. So we have 2 dorms. Our student population is at about 3,500 students. So we're here nestled here in Birmingham and Bessemer, Alabama, and we'd love to have you and have your students on campus.
Thank you. Next, we will have Ms. Stephanie Miller, Central Alabama Community College.
Morning. Thank you for allowing me to join. I am Stephanie Miller, as she said, with Central Alabama Community College. I'm the Director of Financial Aid there. I've been in financial aid for over 20 years and have helped different populations of students, including Alabama Possible, and when we used to have the Alabama College Goals Sunday. So many of you are shaking your heads. You may remember me from that, or from NACAC when we had the in-person information. For Central Alabama Community College, we have 4 campuses, and Talladega, Childersburg, Alexander City, and Prattville. And we have, 2-year programs with the health sciences, and we have career technical programs with welding. And some of our welding students recently placed second in a nationwide welding competition. So we're extremely excited about that. And we have some non-credit programs that unfortunately are not eligible for financial aid, but they are fast growing, especially in our area around Lake Martin. We have Marine Tech and some of those that aren't being offered at some of the other places. So if you ever like to come down to see one of our campuses, please let me know and I'll be happy to get in touch with someone who can show you around.
Thank you so much. So we're going to dive right into our Q&A, and so I'm going to pose the questions maybe to a specific person, but any of our panelists, please feel free to jump in and answer any questions that we have. So our first question, I want to ask Ms. Baker, what method does your institution use to attract students?
So we try to use really a multi-step approach of different methods to attract students. So I think the first thing is trying to be pretty visible in the high schools. And so we are doing private visits, and we go to college fairs hosted by Alacro and by individual colleges as well, just to get in front of the students, try to make that personal connection. Something that we have also started really trying to ramp up and do a little bit more of recently is social media. We have recently gotten into the TikTok game and trying to do clever TikToks to catch students' attention. We know that we're trying to meet them where they are right now, and that's a popular spot, and Instagram as well. And then of course, for the parents, we're still on Facebook too. So really trying to saturate that market, since that's where students seem to be getting all their information now. We also still utilize email communications, print communications. Still not quite as, I would say, as heavy as we used to be in print, but we're still mailing postcards and things like that, just so that they're getting something physical from our university as well. And we know sometimes that may also be the only way that parents are seeing that information. We do calls as well, and then we host different campus events for students to come in and tour. So individual campus tours, group tours, Saturday visits, preview days, open houses, accepted student days. So really there's, I feel like we've tried just about everything in different methods over the years. And what we've come to realize is something that may work one year doesn't work as well the next year. So, it's an ever evolving practice with us to try to stay on top of the latest trends.
Thank you so much for that. So that question is open for anyone else who would like to jump in.
I'll jump in here at Tuskegee, because we are a National Historic Site, actually the only HBCU with such a designation. We like to use campus tours as well. So we like to invite people to come to our campus and just walk our hallowed grounds. There's nothing like Salona University and being like Booker T. Washington, Rockefeller. We've had so many people that just walked our campus. And so to have students there, we have the monument of Booker T. Washington lifting the veil of ignorance at the nucleus of our campus. And so when we have students on campus and they're able to see the impact that he had on so many students and his belief in education, it just is an awe-inspiring moment for so many of our visitors to come. So we like to utilize everything that Ms. Baker said. It is ever evolving. And I'm kind of older. I look young, but I am not. So the TikTok thing, we're working through that, and I'm like, I'm not sure how I use it well myself, but so we like to utilize a combination of those, but we really like to focus on having that hands-on experience and utilizing our campus visitation days. As I mentioned earlier, we have high school visitation day this Saturday, and then we have one in the spring where we do a day in the life of a golden tiger, where students are able to come to campus and actually participate in some of our activities, attend a class, so they'll actually see what it is like to be a golden tiger here at Tuskegee University. And that really is a selling point for a lot of our students when they come to campus and they're actually like, oh, I can see myself in this building, or I can see myself in this seat, can see myself in this residence hall, or in this particular major. So that's really a high selling point for us. So we highly encourage campus tours for our prospective families.
Thank you so much. Anyone else care to respond?
Just real quick, I won't, without being redundant, we do a lot of the same things as Tuskegee and UWA. We actually were the site for the Alacro College Fair, Jefferson County College Fair, this past fall. So we were really excited to have all the high school seniors on our campus. We do private visits. We also have retractable banners and things that we can leave at your high schools, so that your students can scan and get information and scan for applications while they're actually there at the school. And so we have a lot of different means we try to connect with students. We do have Instagram and all the social media outlets as well. We do have texting capabilities where students can actually text the admissions office. That's actually manned by people in our office, so it's not just a random line. So we all help in responding to those text messages and answering questions. So
like everyone else, we have the social media, all the different mediums. We, Spring Hill offers Badger Connection a couple of times throughout the year. Badger Day next week is during homecoming, so there'll be Badger Day, where students get an opportunity to come out and visit the campus. And so visiting is very important, a part of the student selection process. And Spring Hill awards a $500 visit scholarship for any senior visiting the college. And that $500 scholarship is available for 4 years.
What are application deadlines? And once the student has completed an application and been accepted, what are their next steps? And so we'll start with Dr. Griffin.
Thank you for that opportunity. So we have rolling admissions here at Tuskegee University. So that just means if a university has rolling admissions that there's no particular deadline. So we are currently accepting applications for fall 2023 as well as spring 2023. If you have any students who meant to go to college this fall of 2022 and missed anything. So we do have spring 2023, summer 2023, and fall 2023 open. And so while there's no deadline, we have rolling admissions. Kind of the closer it gets to time, we just ensure that students have their financial aid in place, right? So if you want to apply the day before school starts, before we take you through that process, even though we would prefer you to have it done by June or July, if you show up the day before classes start, we won't turn you away, but we will ensure that all of your financial aid is complete before we take you through the admissions process. We take the applications, the test scores, or we do have test optional applications at this moment for students who have above a 3.0 GPA. They're able to apply with a letter of recommendation as well as an essay and their transcript. They don't have to have the test scores. So as long as all of that is in, we do then make sure that your financial aid is complete before we go through submitting a letter, because if you haven't done the FAFSA or your EFC is too high and you're gonna have to, we are a private school, so our price tag, we call it the red bottoms. We are the red bottoms of HBCUs. We're not the most expensive, but we're not the least expensive either. So we sit at about $34,000 a year, which is room and board, tuition, and fees. So we want to make sure that the financial aid package for students is complete and most comprehensive if you're applying after our preferred deadline. A lot of schools have cutoff deadlines. Some schools have rolling admissions, but we do try to be most responsive to our students and their needs, academic and financial, to make sure that their process of matriculating to the university is smooth. And once a student has been admitted, we do have an enrollment fee, $200. It's goes towards like creating a schedule, assigning an advisor, evaluating the transcript for dual enrollment credits or IB credits, or any type of credits they may have received prior to enrolling at our university. And the other 200 is our residence hall deposit. So if they're moving to a residence hall, that secures their housing for the fall or whatever term they're enrolling. And then we get the transcript onto their advisor, create a schedule, send emails, give them their access to our TigerWeb platform, which is what we use for grades and paying money, and then inundating them with a lot of information about orientation and becoming a Tuskegee University student. So it's really, I call it like the gear shifts for a car, like one has to make the other work, but the being accepted and paying the enrollment fee is like the catalyst to get all of that working. So we do encourage students to apply early. Our applicants are evaluated for scholarships at the time of application. There's not a separate application for that. Well, there's not a separate application. So when a student applies, they're immediately through our CRM evaluated for scholarships. So if you qualify for the presidential scholarship in May and we only have 20, you probably will be stuck with a merit scholarship because we're out of those 20 because students have already booked. I think we offered 30 presidentials already this year for next fall. So with the deadline being of March to pay that deposit, the early bird does get the worm here. So again, as I said, there's no necessarily a deadline because of rolling admissions, but if you know that you qualify for one of our academic scholarships, it's best to have all of that done, I say definitely by Christmas.
Thank you so much, Dr. Griffin. Would anyone else like to respond to your enrollment process and the steps after the student has been accepted?
I'll go ahead and jump in. For us, we're pretty similar to Tuskegee. Once a student is accepted, we do ask that they pay an enrollment confirmation fee. Ours is $200, and it covers the cost to apply for housing and any costs associated with that. And then it also covers the student to register for an orientation session, because we do require all new students to go through orientation. It also covers them to be advised, have a schedule created, and transcripts be evaluated as well. So that's a really key piece, because they can't do anything else without that enrollment confirmation fee being in place. The priority deadline to pay it is May 1. So they do have plenty of time once they're admitted to try to get that payment lined up. If something happens and a student comes to us and they can't pay it immediately, they can sign a deferment fee that they will agree to pay it in the future, but we cannot completely waive that fee at this time. And then once they go through and do their orientation session, get their schedule, they can then start the process of lining up payment plan if they need that. They will also be able to go through roommate matching, selecting their room within our residence halls as well. And then once all that's in place, they'll also be able to go in and select the day that they move into campus as well.
Law State is a community college, and so our admissions process is a little different. Of course, we have open enrollment. We don't have any GPA requirement, and there's no application fee to apply and attend Law State Community College. Our 2023 application, our spring 2023 application is open. Our fall 2023 and summer 2023 application will open on October 17th. It's really basic, really simple for first-time freshmen, kids graduating from high school to attend Lawson State. All we need is an ID and a copy of your final high school transcript. The benefit of attending a community college is you still have an opportunity to go to a UWA or a Tuskegee University. We have great transfer scholarship partnerships with those institutions. So a lot of students will start off at our institution, do their first 2 years, take their general education courses, and then transfer to a Tuskegee or transfer to a UWA or a larger institution upon completing their first 2 years here. So we try to give students a larger institution experience at a small community college. Our classroom size is 18 to 24 students in a class. The process is you're conditionally admitted upon completing your application. Once you submit all your required documents, such as your ID and your final high school transcript, you're unconditionally admitted. Scholarships are due April 15th for incoming freshmen for the next fall. So April 15th will be our scholarship deadline. We do award merit scholarships based on high school final GPA. So you can get a percentage of your tuition paid based on your high school GPA, but we also have CTE, career technical education scholarships, performing arts scholarships as well.
Just to repeat, Spring Hill would probably some of the same things, maybe just a couple of differences that I would highlight. Undocumented students follow the same admission process as all students, and so they're eligible for merit awarded scholarships. So, like I said, we are a rolling admissions institution, so students can apply. Our early deposit enrollment fee is $350 for residents and $200 for commuter students.
Thank you all so much. So we've been talking a little bit about fees. We mentioned scholarships, but before we really delve into scholarships a little bit deeper, I want to bring in Ms. Miller to talk about the FAFSA. And Ms. Miller, if you could highlight some of the key updates for the 2023-24 FAFSA.
Well, I don't know how many of you have really gotten a chance to look at the 2023-2024 FAFSA, but it is available online as a PDF. And I always suggest that as counselors and administrators, we always get a chance to look at that, if not submit a FAFSA yourself to see what has changed. But one of the biggest things that have changed is that they're no longer going to require selective service. So a student does not have to state if they're registered for selective service or not. And it does not prevent the student from receiving aid if they did not register for selective service. In addition, they have recently taken away the drug conviction question, that if you were convicted of a drug, a drug related offense while receiving financial aid, that has gone away as well. So those two things are the biggest thing for the 23-24 FAFSA. There are some big changes for 24-25. In fact, the EFC, which is what tells all of us if the student is receiving a Pell Grant or not, the expected family contribution, is actually going to change to the SAI, which is to the Student Aid Index, and will be going into the negative. So we are waiting on some more additional guidance for that, but that is for 24-25. But the major changes for 23-24 is the selective service and the drug conviction question, which should no longer be on the FAFSA.
One quick follow-up question. If you could help us understand the difference between FAFSA submitted and FAFSA completed. Is there a difference?
Well, there is a difference. So there's actually two things that you have to think about when you talk about completion and submitted. Some people say, I have completed my FAFSA, but they actually didn't submit it, right? And so if you complete your FAFSA on the web or even by paper, but you never actually submit it to the government, obviously you're not getting any information to the government. To complete your FAFSA and submit it on the web, the parent, if it's applicable, and the student both have to have what they call an FSA ID. And that seems to be, to me, in working with many students and families, the hardest part of the FAFSA is getting this FSA ID, because a lot of times the phone number has already been used by a previous applicant, or the parent is starting the application and they fill out an FSA ID for the student with their phone number and their email address, when really that should belong to the parent. And then the student should have their email address and their phone number attached to that. Just as a word of advice, and I know this is a little off the question, but just as a word of advice, do not allow your students to use their high school email on any application, as that high school email is going away. I would have them to create an email address that maybe the parent and student could get into both. If, they could both get into Stephanie's college information at gmail.com or something like that, that would allow to be used on the FAFSA, the FSA ID, any scholarships, things like that. Believe it or not, admissions folks, if somebody is on the line, they look at that email address, and if it has something that's inappropriate, the student may not be qualified for that scholarship or whatever it may be. So once you hit submit, then the application is processed to the schools that were chosen. So you can choose up to 10 different schools to be put on the FAFSA. Now, once it comes to me as a school, once it's been submitted, I get the information, but the FAFSA may not be complete, which once again comes into that you have to complete it before you can submit it, right? But then if the student chooses not to answer certain questions or to submit, let's say, without a parent signature, it comes in and there may not be a valid EFC, or there may not be an EFC at all, which becomes a FAFSA that is considered not complete. So for example, if you were applying for a scholarship that required the FAFSA to be complete, or an admissions app, a FAFSA to be complete, it would not be completed without an actual EFC. In many cases. So there is a difference between the completed and the submitted on the front end, and then again on the back end to have a valid EFC that is eligible for a financial aid offer at a school. Oh, and just one other thing, if you have students, because we saw this last year with the new law that was put into place for graduation, students would actually be on their FAFSA and mark, oh, my parents' information is not here. I don't want to put my parent information on there. And then they would submit their FAFSA. Well, then it would come back rejected because they did not meet any of the qualifications that allowed them to not have a parent information on there. So while their FAFSA was submitted, it was not complete. Also, we had students and parents who chose to submit their application without a parent's signature. When they do that, they have to print the signature page. And when they print that signature page, the government waits several weeks before they do anything with the FAFSA as far as processing. And once that time is over, then they will submit that to the school without that EFC because the parent didn't sign it. But because they chose to print and mail that off to the Federal Processing Center, it actually holds it kind of in a holding pattern for several weeks. So just be aware if you've got students who are going to print that for some reason, and we all know that if a student is the parents of a student, they are undocumented. There is a way to put the parent information on there, but they're not allowed to get an FSA ID because they don't have a valid social security number, and they have to print that and mail it. So just be aware that, you know, when they do print that and mail that, the FAFSA is in a holding pattern until the federal government receives that and processes that. But like I said, after several weeks, they will send it out to us, and we will not have a completed FAFSA at that point.
Well, thank you, Ms. Miller, for that very in-depth information. So let's go, Mr. Cozart. Question for you at your school. Does your college or university require FAFSA completion to be considered for institutional aid?
We try to encourage students to get their FAFSA completed. That way you kind of know what financial aid resources are available. But for scholarships, and we have a myriad of scholarships, merit-based scholarships, academic scholarships that are available. So we really encourage students to get that FAFSA completed. That's really the best way to kind of know what opportunities are available.
Anyone else like to answer that question? Okay, we'll move on. Thank Mr. William. I saw you.
Yeah, I'm going to say, as a part of in order to be eligible for one of our institutional scholarships, you must have a submitted FAFSA on file. You need to complete your FAFSA in order to be eligible to receive any of the institutional scholarships, whether that be academic or athletic.
We do not require it for our academic and leadership scholarships through the admissions office at West Alabama, but we do have some departmental scholarships that are tied to grants that do require FAFSA submission, which are our BOSS scholarships, which are for students that are going into any of our biology fields. And then we also have Project Earn, which is a nursing scholarship. It's super important because some of those scholarships pay for the full cost of attendance. So we do encourage students to complete the FAFSA, because if not, they're missing out on some excellent opportunities there. And then if students are applying for any of our alumni scholarships, they also require FAFSA submission. So while we don't through our office, there are other offices that do use that information for awarding purposes.
Thank you. So Ms. Baker, I want to stay with you for a minute. But of course, all the other panelists, please feel free to jump in. If your school is test optional for admissions, what do you use to determine your merit-based scholarships or any other scholarship grants that the students would get if they had taken the test or submitted the test?
That's a great question. So we are test optional for 2023 again. Students can be admitted to UWA with a 2.5 GPA or higher. If they don't have a 2.5 GPA, then they must have at least a 17 on the ACT or a comparable SAT score to be admitted to West Alabama. For our merit scholarships, they are ACT or GPA based for some of our lower levels. So for our base level academic scholarship, which is $2,000 a year, students must have at least a 3.0 GPA or a 21 on the ACT to qualify. For our next level, it's $3,000 a year, and students have to have at least a 3.25 GPA or a 23 or higher on the ACT. And then the next level, which caps out our test optional based scholarships is $4,000 a year, and the student has to have a 3.75 or higher or 25 or higher on the ACT. All of our scholarships above that, students have to meet the ACT and GPA requirement. But they can at least qualify for the other 3 levels. And then our leadership scholarship is also test optional base, so you can have a 2.5 GPA or higher to qualify for leadership scholarship, and you have to have held some sort of leadership position within your high school, community, church, something like that, for us to base that scholarship awarding on. And our scholarships are stackable, so if students qualify for both academic and leadership, they can receive both of those awards. Even if they are test optional, that's perfectly fine. You can still stack those scholarships.
Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to answer that? One other question, and I will pose it to Dr. Griffin, but I would also like for any other panelists to chime in. If the students submit a submit a test score, but they want to retest, say they didn't score as high as they would have liked and they want to retest, would the prior test score that they submitted be able to be replaced with the new test score for scholarship considerations?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Ms. Jackson. Absolutely. We do encourage students to retest. So if a student maybe has an 18 on a September test, and then they're admitted with an 18, but they retest and get a 24, and now they qualify for a higher scholarship in, say, December, we do encourage them 100% to resubmit those scores. We do ask that they notify us, because if we use a CRM, a customer relations management system, and the student can upload their test scores automatically. So we may just get that a new score was uploaded, but because the decision has already been made, there's no action on our part that's required. So we do ask that they alert us to say, hey, at our admissions website, admissions@tuskegee.edu, I resubmitted my ACT scores and would like to be evaluated for additional scholarship money. So it tells us to actually go back in and reevaluate the student. They can upload documents as many times as they desire to our platform. Our application is 100% free on the tuskegee.edu website. So as long as students are pulling that information in and uploading those documents themselves, we can always evaluate. Again, I will give a just a slight warning. If they submit something, say in November, December, and then resubmit new test scores in May, many of our higher scholarships are not available. So we do run into, oh, but I qualify for the presidential. Yeah, but you didn't qualify for the presidential at the time of initial evaluation. So even though you may qualify now, those scholarships are available, and I see Ms. Baker nodding her head. Those scholarships are available as long as funds remain available. So there's not a free bucket of money that says anybody who gets the presidential at any time during the recruitment cycle applies, as long as funds remain available and remain unclaimed in a particular scholarship requirement. We will continue to offer the scholarships, but once they're gone, I don't want to be the problem or cause that we are over budget. So we will give the student the next lower scholarship that they qualify for. So we do reevaluate the scores, and in some cases we can super score, but we don't like to make that a habit. But for some students who are in a particular situation, we have been known to do that for particular students. Yes.
I was gonna jump in and just say quickly that we do encourage retaking of the ACT as well, because it can only help you, not hurt you at this point. So definitely encourage your students to do that. We do accept super score ACTs as long as they come directly from ACT. We will not super score them in-house. So that also has helped students in the past jump to either acceptance level or to get more scholarship money. But funds are limited, so encourage them to do that early if they can. Try not to wait to the summer to retest, because we may or may not still have that scholarship fund available for them.
I have to admit, this is I am not a financial aid expert, but following these great admissions and financial aid people, we are test optional. We do super score, and application cannot be changed. However, if the student retakes ACT, get a higher score, then we can reconsider the scholar. We can reconsider the award based on the higher score.
So unfortunately, we are at the end. I want to get you all out on time. I want to thank our panelists for your participation.
Sandra, there is not a question, is a question for Stephanie Miller. Is there a contact for Stephanie Miller? I think the subtle nuances shared regarding FAFSA are vital for students and parents.
Sure. My email is st like Stephanie. So stmiller01@cacc.edu. Anisha, if you wanted to put that in the chat,
I did that.
That's fine. So stmiller01@cacc.edu. Even if you're going to one of these other schools, please feel free to reach out. I'm always available. I also shared some information with Alabama Possible. I don't know if they'll be able to send that out to you guys with just like some helpful hints, tips, tricks that we have found useful over the years as a financial aid person and working with all different types of students.
Thank you. We will, but we also have, and May has placed in the chat, the registration to the Advanced FAFSA webinar. So please feel free to register for that as well. And so now at this time, thanks again to our panelists. I will turn it over to May for our second survey.
Before we get to that, I would also really encourage folks to reach out to our help desk. We provide one-on-one direct assistance, especially around FAFSA completion. So you are more than welcome to contact Stephanie. She is such a wonderful person to assist. We'd also encourage you to reach out to our help desk as well, so we're not inundating her with a bunch of questions, but she is fantastic. So we're going to do our professional development polls so that y'all can be eligible for your credits. So starting off with the first one, which you should see now, there are 2 questions here. Just a reminder, we'll have this both on a slide and in the follow-up email. After completing the poll questions in our webinar, you will also need to register in PowerSchool to receive the credits. That registration information is always contained on our events webpage and in our follow-up email. So be sure to do that promptly, because I believe the State Department of Education gives about a 2-day window for you to get that registration done to be eligible. Here's the professional development information. You'll go to the link that will be provided in our follow-up email, and you will enter in course number 295-839, and then section number 457366.
Thank you, May. And these are dates for upcoming events, so please save the dates. And all this information will be in a follow-up email, and you'll be able to click directly from the presentation to register. And stay connected with us via our website, alabamagoestocollege.org, our phone number 334-316-6155, or via email algoestocollege@alabamapossible.org. And don't forget to follow us on social media. So thank you again to all of you who participated and who hung in there to the end. We really appreciate it. And thanks again to our panelists for your participation.